Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand and recite with me, I pledge to our nation and our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing for our prayer, please.
God and Lord, we come with excited hearts because of how you have rescued us. You think of us when we think too much of ourselves, and those times we think too little of ourselves. You have been faithful to us, your creation, for generations, and we are blessed. You have done great things for us, and you are worthy of our praises. You are merciful to us. You honor those who care for those in need, and you have provided for us. Watch over those who lead us. Give us wisdom and strength to make the decisions that reflect your love to the people of Guthrie. Help us be a blessing to others, especially in this holiday season, and may our thoughts and actions honor you and bring you happiness. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Call to order our special Guthrie Economic Development Authority meeting. Second item on the agenda is our consent agenda. I only have one item on the consent agenda, is the approval of the minutes of the special Guthrie Economic Development Authority meeting of August 3rd. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Submit your votes, please.
All votes right.
See the votes. Unanimous approval of consent agenda item A, which is the minutes of August 3rd. Item number 3, discussion possible action of resolution number 2021-37, authorizing the purchase of outstanding balance of the Guthrie Edmond Airport promissory note between Guthrie Industrial Development Authority and Edmond Economic Development Authority. Leroy, are you taking the lead on that?
I will. The balance of the note as of November 30th, 2021 was $111,457.16. A little different than what was in your packet because there's 1 month's additional interest. Got a new report. In 2012, the Guthrie Economic, at that time it was called Industrial Authority. Now it has been renamed to the Guthrie Economic Development Authority. Borrowed funds for the extension of water and sewer improvements at the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport to a designated corporate hangar area. So it was to serve a specific area. The revenue stream from the annual corporate hangar land lease payments and the initial water sewer system hookup fees, about $4,000 for each hangar, from that designated area were obligated for the payment of the loan debt service. Currently, the land lease payments generates about $15,700. This loan will pay itself off eventually, but is not paying itself off as quickly as the parties thought back in 2012. The interest rate on the loan was set at 1.5% per annum. The maturity of the note between Edmonds Economic Development Authority and the Guthrie Economic Development Authority matures on October 1st of 2022. So the note's becoming due. And all principal and accrued but unpaid interest is due and payable on that date, a year from now, roughly. I give you the current outstanding balances of the end of November. If the Guthrie Economic Development Authority purchased the outstanding balance of the promissory note, the Edmond Economic Development Authority will be paid in full. The Guthrie Economic Development Authority will then continue to receive the revenue from the annual corporate hangar land lease payments and the initial water sewer system hookup fees for that designated area until the balance of the note's principal with interest at a rate of 1.5% is paid in full. At $15,700, you're looking at between 7 to 8 years to recapture that money. Once the note is paid in full, the obligated revenue stream would be retained by the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport in the future.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any questions of Leroy?
We have some representatives from Edmond and the airport board here, but I believe they're here to speak to the amended operation agreement and not this topic, but just in case they wanted to say anything. They're good.
No comments at this one? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. And were there any other questions of Leroy Evans? All right, submit your votes, please.
All votes right.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve Resolution 2021-37, the promissory note. That being the last item on our agenda for the Guthrie Economic Development Authority meeting. It is adjourned. I call to order our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting. We have second item on the agenda is public comments, community announcements, recognitions. Do we have anything listed? None. No, we don't. Third item on the agenda is the consent agenda, items A through E. A is the approval of the minutes of the Public Work Authority meeting of November 16th. B is the approval of our 2022 calendar year schedule of regular meetings. C is the approval of the award of an RFP number 2021-07, auditing services from Elfrick and Associates. D is the approval of the contract between the City of Guthrie Public Works Authority and NORP, N-O-R-P-S, for information technology and consultation services. And E is the authorization to purchase a hydro stop machine, a trailer with a trash pump, and 5 blue-white chemical pumps. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, submit your votes.
All votes right.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve the consent agenda items A through E. Item number 4, discussion and possible action to approve an amendment to the 2019-2024 joint operating agreement between the Guthrie Public Works Authority and the Edmond Public Works Authority. Leroy, take the lead.
Yes, sir. The city of Guthrie and the city of Edmond initially entered into an airport agreement in July of 2004 that run through June 30th, 2009. That agreement was renewed for the period of 2009 through June 14th, and then again for 5 years from 2014 through 2019, and then effectively 19 through June 30th of 2024. And that's the agreement that we're going to amend to allow a joint operation and development and expansion of the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport. This has been a very good agreement for the airport. The airport has had an influx of revenue as a result of this agreement with the city of Edmond that has allowed us to do some things at the airport that we would not have been able to do on our own or do as quickly. Our financial situation in Guthrie, of course, over some of this period of time has been challenging. I think we're in a better financial shape now today. State statute 3 OS section 65.1 Municipal Airports Act is the underlying enabling legislation that grants the authority for the two municipalities to enter into an agreement with each other for joint operation of the municipal airport. Under the statute, it was contemplated that the joint airport board would have authority and powers beyond a simple advisory board. In the past, the airport board has been treated as just a simple advisory board. This change will make it more, as the state statute envisioned, and they will have some authority to make independent decisions with limitations. This amended agreement, we've had several discussions about it over the last few months. We've had meetings with airport advisory board members. We've had meetings with the city of Edmond. We've had group meetings, so this has went through several generations to come up with this agreement. We think we've reached something that is beneficial to both communities and the airport going forward, that will provide some additional stability to our airport more long-term, give the airport board more authority to make decisions relative to airport within the limits set by that state statute. Part of giving the additional stability, the amended agreement will be effective January 1, 2022 and continue until June 30th, 2044. So instead of doing it 5 years at a time, this is a long-term agreement of roughly 22 years. Termination, this amended agreement may be terminated prior to expiration of the term of the agreement, 2024, by either party without cause by providing written notice of at least 3 years in advance of the proposed termination date. Again, that lends itself to more stability. You get a new city manager in Guthrie or Edmond, and if you look at the two city managers and see how daggone old we are, we're going to get replaced one of these days. And so if a new city manager comes in, it gives some stability that they have to work with this agreement because they've got to give 3 years' notice through their city council to void the agreement. So you won't have a knee-jerk reaction if there's a change on the city council or a change of leadership in the city manager in either community. The ownership, the airport will continue to be owned by the city of Guthrie. Capital improvements or capital acquisition, this part of the agreement gives Edmond more confidence that if we do $1 million project, or $5 million worth of project, that we don't get Edmond's money and run and all of a sudden say, well, we don't need you anymore. You paid for all these projects. It gives them some stability. Under this agreement, the investments we make together, like if there's $1 million project, we pay $500,000, Edmond invests $500,000. Their $500,000 would be amortized over a 20-year period, just like a forgiveness loan. Each year, 1/20th of it would be written off. If we terminate the agreement early, whatever the balance on that forgiveness type loan, we would pay them the balance if we terminate it before 2044. If Edmond terminated it without cause, then we would not owe them anything. And at the end of the agreement, 2044, there would not be any carryover balance. For some reason, there we go. Operation and maintenance, funds provided by Edmond for operation and maintenance of the airport won't be amortized and will not be eligible for repayment or requested. So the annual operating, paying for the staff, the utilities, that's not amortized. That's just an annual investment by both cities, whatever it takes for an operation budget above and beyond the revenue generated by the land leases. that's just an annual investment. The only amortization is on the actual capital investments if we do a project, not operations. The board shall consist of 7 members, just like it has before. The Guthrie city manager or their designee will automatically be one of the board members. 3 trustees shall be appointed by the city of Guthrie City Council. 3 trustees shall be appointed by the Edmond City Council. Each city makes their own decision as to how they do their appointments and what the length of terms, or not the length, but how many times they can be reappointed is left up to each city. The current airport board trustees may recommend individuals to each respective city to fill vacancies on the board as they occur. And then the weight given to those recommendations shall be determined by each city council. Pursuant to the state statute, limitations on the board expenditures, the total expenditures to be made by the board for any purpose in any fiscal year shall be determined by a budget approved by the governing bodies of the participating municipalities. So each year we will do a budget, and I'm just throwing out numbers, but say the land leases and fuel sales generated $20,000. And then the city of Guthrie put $40,000 into the budget and Edmond put $40,000. The airport board would have $100,000 that they could spend without going through either city. That would be their budget. If they want to spend more than $100,000, then they would have to come back to the 2 cities and ask for additional funding. So they would be limited by whatever budget was adopted. And each city would put our share in along with the revenue generated at the airport. Acquisitions beyond the sums allowed, again, they can't buy more than what's allowed in their budget. So if they've got $1 million budget, a $100,000 budget, they can spend that based on how that money's budgeted without coming back to the 2 city councils, but they can't spend more. They cannot condemn property to buy property without the 2 city councils agreeing, and they can't dispose or sell property. They can do a lease up to 50 years of land lease for hangars. That probably would be unusual to give one that long, but that is the length allowed by the state statute, the maximum length. The airport employees and legal counsel, the airport manager shall be appointed and if necessary removed at any time by the city of manager of Guthrie, because they will be a city employee, but the airport manager shall work under the direct supervision of the airport board, and the city attorney of the city of Guthrie shall serve as legal counsel for the board. I think that all the parties sincerely worked to put this agreement together. I'm sure over the next 2 years, we will realize, just like when they wrote the U.S. Constitution, you know, they had to amend it periodically a few times. I'm sure we will probably we'll run into things we didn't think about. We may have to tweak this, but I think this is a sound structure to move us forward. And city staff recommends that you adopt this amended agreement. And I think we have a city manager from Edmond and at least 2 of our airport board members here that may want to make comments.
All right. Thank you, Leroy. We do have some esteemed visitors with us. We have representatives from the board itself, I think 2 or 3.
Yes, sir.
Brad, you want to come? You want to come right up here?
Yes, sir.
Identify yourself and your address, and you've got 5 minutes.
All right, Brad Latham from 4774 East College, Guthrie, Oklahoma. I'm the chairman of the airport board, And I don't think that anybody could say that this was put together in a hastily fashion. It's been a long road to get where we're at with the agreement, but a lot of good minds have put a lot of effort into it, and it's been well vetted, in my opinion. There's a lot of good things in there for, like Leroy said, the city, both cities, and the airport, and the people that use the airport. So I don't want to get real into the details on it. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I just want to say that myself and the airport board has spent some time looking at it, and we are in full support of the document as it stands.
Okay, Mr. Latham. Any questions of Mr. Latham from the council? All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Brad? Anybody else from the airport board that would like to speak? You don't have to. You pretty much know the routine, Dick.
Hi, I'm Dick Geib. I'm a resident of Edmond, 1608 Hazelhurst, and board member. And what Brad said, I'll go ahead and echo. I think most everybody has been in and out of this project now over the last several years. So if there is anything that's uncomfortable or unknown, that's why we're here tonight. The airport has been a major asset for Guthrie as well as Edmond. It has nothing but potential to get bigger and better. And so this agreement has been hashed and rehashed to, like Leroy said, just absolutely the basic foundation for where we'd like to see it go. So we appreciate your support, and any questions that I can answer, I'm glad to do.
Any questions from the council?
No, I'm just gonna make a motion to approve it,
I'll second that.
We might
We
want
have,
to see
I think, one more.
unless
one
Larry
more-
wants to get out.
We have one more comment. I think we have an esteemed representative
something.
from the city of Edmond who has hardly ever gone to a city council meeting, I'm sure.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Larry Stevens with the City of Edmond. Everything that needs to be said has really been said. Leroy did a great job of outlining the agreement. It's the same agreement our city council is going to formally consider next Monday night. We remain very enthusiastic about what the potential of this facility is. And it can truly be a major win-win for both communities. This agreement helps facilitate that better than what we had in place before, as Leroy's talked about. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer it. But we have recommended that it be approved, and hopefully that will happen at our council meeting Monday night. So.
Any questions of Mr. Stevens from the council?
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
So moved.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, folks.
All votes for it.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve the amendment to the 2019-2024 Joint Airport Operating Agreement. All of us agree, everybody I think in this room agree, that the airport is certainly a gem for both of our communities. We all want to see it grow. It's a part of our future. And I think this agreement, this amendment to the agreement, certainly helps the stability, the longevity of a partnership that has been a really positive partnership for a long number of years. So just another step forward, a good one. Let's see, item number 5, discussion possible action to the Guthrie Solid Waste. This
5 and 6 can be
this item-
removed.
This item and the sixth, item number 5 and item number 6 were part of our workshop, which was previously accomplished, and no action to be taken at this time. We'll are awaiting a report approximately the first meeting in January on both those subjects. With that, I adjourn our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting, and I call to order our City Council meeting. Item number 2 is a consent agenda, items A through L. Deep breath. A, approval of the minutes of November 16th, regular council meeting. B is the approval of the minutes of the November 16th special city council meeting workshop. C is the confirmation of the Guthrie Public Works Authority action approving the amendment to the joint operating agreement. D is the confirmation of the Guthrie Economic Development Authority's Resolution 2021-37. E is the approval of the 2022 calendar year's schedule of regular meetings. F is the approval of the awarding of the RFP number 2021-07, auditing services of Elfrink and Associates. G is the acceptance of the 2021 American Rescue Plan Act grant for $15,000 plus to the Guthrie Public Library. H is the authorization and use of funds from the Oklahoma Office of Homeland Security grant to purchase radio equipment for the fire department. I is the authorization to use funds from the Federal Assistance to Firefighters grant to purchase radio and communication equipment for the fire department. J is the acceptance of a 2021 Justice Assistance Grant, law enforcement block grant to purchase police department radios. K is the authorization to purchase a Bobcat track loader, a 2023 International Tacoma street sweeper, and an auto crane. L is the approval of the contract between the City of Guthrie and the Guthrie Public Works Authority and NORPS for information technology and consultative services.
If I could make one clarification before you voted, we found out on the international chassis for the street sweeper was over 1 year out because of supply chain issues. We are recommending substituting a Freightliner M2160 in lieu of the International that has about 120 delay delivery time. It's the same price, same engine, same transmission, just a different chassis. Freightliner instead of International, quicker delivery. City Stillwater has a Freightliner for several years now, and they're very satisfied with it. City staff has looked at it, and so we just want to substitute the Freightliner chassis instead of International.
So you don't need any motion on that in particular item?
Just when you approve the consent agenda, know that we are going
Right.
to change it to this item.
It'll reflect as amended.
Although I do think it would be important, I don't know if now's the time for discussion, that this city know how much we're spending. You didn't give any of those totals that are in there specifically in K.
Okay.
That we're spending $269,200 for it. I I personally think the people that are tuned in would probably like to know those amounts.
Okay. And K, we're authorizing the purchase of a Bobcat compact truck loader and for $860,000. A 2023 Now Freightliner street sweeper for $269,200, and an auto crane for $16,368.
So
And-
moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your vote.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from all those present to approve the consent agenda as amended, substituting the Freightliner for the International Street Sweeper. Item number 3, discussion possible action to approve resolution 2021-38, authorizing a grant application for the with the EDA, requesting funds to construct the Oklahoma State Certified Film Soundstage. You, Leroy, are you doing it?
We are going to switch up on you a little bit. I am going to make a presentation on Item 4 and item 6, after we did the agenda, it seemed to make more sense if we put the industrial park first and then do the soundstage second.
Okay.
So my presentation will involve item 4, resolution 2021-39, to apply to EDA for funding for infrastructure improvements to develop a site-ready certified industrial park. And item 6 will be resolution number 2021-41, same project, but just a different source of funds. We're applying for the same projects under 2 different pots of money.
So this isn't giving up 3, this is just you presenting
We'll come
prior
back
to.
to 3.
Correct. We're just taking the agenda out of order.
Okay.
I would point out, Emblem Strategies has been working as our grant writer consultant. Allison Carson was the project lead working with us, and Josh McCormick, managing partner, and Amy Ann Ford, the other managing partner, and all 3 of them have played different roles in assisting with this. And Josh is here tonight and may participate in part of the discussion on either the industrial park or the film soundstage. City staff recognize Eric Harlow. Eric served as the staff lead on the industrial park project. He would be making this presentation tonight, but he had already scheduled time off before we knew what city council meeting we would hit. Justin Fortney served as the staff lead on the film soundstage, but we all worked on both projects. Shonda Rooney, economic developer, worked on both projects. Kim Biggs, city clerk finance director, assisted us. Shonda and Kim could have either one served as staff lead on either one of these projects, but while we were putting these together, Shonda was tied up. We'd assigned several retail recruitment brochures and videos that she concentrated on. So she was part of the team, but she concentrated on those. Kim, again, could have been team leader on either one, but she took the lead on some CDBG grants, one that will be on your agenda for next week that will apply for some funds to replace HVA systems on public buildings other than City Hall. And she was involved in taking leadership on some USDA grants to provide funding for some of the equipment we just bought. And then myself, I get to play on all the teams too. Blatt Architects, Tony Blatt was our architect for the film soundstage project, and Tony is in the audience and may participate in the presentation on that. Myers Engineering, Bill Myers was our consulting engineer on the industrial park project. And then state leadership, getting letters of support, finding out information, supporting the project. We want to make sure we recognize State Senator Chuck Hall, State Representative Gary Mize, and Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell. They all assisted us. With that, as we go through both projects, just like when we apply for CDBG, there is a target, and there's different levels of money you can apply for and different levels of match money you can provide on the CDBG. And each year we try to hit the sweet spot where we think our application will be competitive and get funded. The same way with these applications, there has been an overwhelming amount of interest on the Economic Development Administration funds and also the state's ARPA money. There is not a cap set, but it appears for the EDA, generally, if you go for $2.5 million per project, that may be the maximum that you get. Now, when we get to the soundstage, they have shown, EDA has shown a lot of interest in that project, and so we are asking for more grant, less match, based on their feedback, because it's such a unique project to see something of that caliber in a rural America in lieu of, so they have a lot of interest in looking at funding that project. So we tried to decide on how much we asked for versus how much match, trying to give us the best competitive application to get funded. When we started out on this venture, we had budgeted out of the 3/4 cent CIP sales tax, $4.4 million to pay out of our own money the development of the industrial park project. When these grant funds become available, the concept was if we could get a grant, we could, for the industrial park, it would free up part of that $4.4 million to do other projects. So what we're presenting to you tonight is a soundstage. We are suggesting that we propose a $1.5 million match to what we're asking for in grant. On the industrial park, it would be 2.3. And EDA does not pay for the extension of public utilities. So the extension of the gas, depending on whether it is single service or dual service. If it's dual service, the max a couple years ago was estimated at $3.25. So that means that $4,125,000 of the 4.4 would be used as match for these projects, which would leave $275,000. The only thing that we need to be aware of is if for some reason we get a grant for the soundstage and move forward with that, and we don't get a grant for the industrial park, we may have to back up to generate additional revenue in the future to do the industrial park. Not saying we won't do it, but we may have to slow the process down because we won't have the 4.4 if we use $1.5 million as part of the match for the soundstage. On the industrial park, most of you are familiar where it's at. Adjacent to I-35 and Highway 3. We've had some entities that have indicated interest in buying this site. And so we have started looking at alternate sites that we might propose. And I've had that occur in another community where we had an EDA application pending. The site got bought by an industry that created about 250 jobs, and we just we amended our application and moved the project to a new site. And so that may be a possibility here. It's 77 acres. It's zoned for manufacturing and warehouse. We do have a survey with elevation contours, phase 1 environmental on the site. We've done a geotechnical study. The plans are at 65% right now. The original cost estimate that we did back in 2020 in March was $4,270,000. To do that same project today, when we updated that this month, that same project would cost $5.9 million. 40% increase. And that's the impact. And that's part of the reason why the EDA ARPA money is available to assist communities that have been adversely affected by inflation created by COVID and all the other things going on. So our proposal for this is phase 1 of the project that would total $4.7 million. And this kind of describes what would be included, but it might be easier, a lot of us are visual. This in the red, the improvement of the college from Highway 33 past this entrance is included in Phase 1. That's all the improvements we were going to do on the perimeter, even under the original application. It doesn't matter what, I think we named one of these for just naming purposes, Enterprise Drive, and I forget what the other was called. But these two roads will be constructed to this, where they intersect, and site work and utilities will be done to all of these lots. We did not plan even originally to do site work and utilities to these three lots, because our thoughts were at the time, we're going to do minimal site work, but not a lot. If we got a large industry that needed a larger site than 10 acres, by leaving some flexibility here, we could group the sites to serve a larger user. We did plan in the original project to extend this road out to this Circle Drive. We have deleted it under Phase 1. So we are pretty much getting the lion's share of what we had originally planned. Applications and match options, 20% match is required. Staff and Emblem Strategies feel we would be more competitive with a higher match percentage. And so staff is proposing 52% grant application, 2.5 million, and a 48% match in lieu of a 20%. We think we're going to have to be that competitive in order to have an opportunity to be considered for the grant. So we would put 2.3 million of local funds into the project if awarded. The industrial park is designed would meet all Oklahoma Department of Commerce requirements for Oklahoma site-ready program certifications. A lot of industries, when they look at sites, they look for sites that have been certified as site-ready by the Department of Commerce. We will be able to apply and receive that certification. In visiting with the Oklahoma City Chamber, we have a multi-county regional partnership. They have written us a letter of support documenting that there has been a historic lack of intermediate to large-size industrial sites in the greater Oklahoma City metro. You can't find many 80-acre industrial sites. The proposed industrial park site is well-suited in proximity to Interstate 35, which allows ideal access to both employers and truck transportation. Both the City of Guthrie and our Oklahoma City partnership feel that we have lost numerous opportunities for job creation, investment over the last few years due to a lack of appropriate industrial sites, and ours could help fill that need. And with Guthrie's proximity to the population center of the Oklahoma Metro, it gives us several advantages to companies looking for an appropriate site. So what Resolution 2139 will authorize us to complete and submit a grant application to EDA requesting 2.5 million and committing a match of 2.3 million, or 48% of local funds, to develop an Oklahoma State site-ready, shovel-ready certified industrial park on the city-owned property. Resolution, there are state ARPA money, and so we're going to apply to two pocketed funds. Resolution number 2021-41 is the exact identical project that I just went over, but we will be applying to the state for their ARPA money. And hopefully, if we don't get funded by EDA, we have a chance to get funded through the state ARPA funds that they are distributing now. One thing to bear in mind, just like the EDA ARPA funds have become very competitive. Everybody's woke up and are applying for all this money. There was an article came out yesterday on the state ARPA funding. They already have $7 billion in requests for the $1.8 billion of funding they have. So it's going to be very competitive. But some of the projects are not providing any match. They're asking for 100% funding. Some of the projects are more, ours is more robust and can show a definite opportunity for creation of jobs. So we think we have a competitive application, but it will be very competitive. So be glad to address any questions, but as I indicated, my presentation was on item 4 and item 6 on your agenda. And once we address questions, we would recommend that you adopt those two resolutions, number 39 and number 41.
Questions, Leroy? Okay, I will, this is on item number 4. I'll entertain a
And
motion.
6, right? And 6, right?
I want to do
4
both
and
of them
6.
together?
4 and
Okay.
6.
Let's do 4 first.
Sure.
So I'll entertain a motion
So
on that
moved.
resolution.
Second.
Any other questions? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve resolution 2021-39. Now, item number 6 on your agenda, which is moving towards the state money. Same presentation, same focus. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See your votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve resolution 2021-41 for that ARPA money.
Thank you, and Justin will make a presentation on these.
All right, Justin, and you're going to move back up to item number 3.
Yes, sir. And I'll tie in item number 5 as well. So two different resolutions about the same project. Talking about the soundstage project, we focused on the 8.3 acre site adjacent to the airport. The purpose of this soundstage would be a dual purpose of commercial production as well as a learning lab for the new film academy there at Meridian. The proximity of Meridian's new campus to this soundstage location would be pretty fantastic for both of those entities to work together on a pretty consistent basis. Not only will it have a dual purpose, it will also meet the state criteria for a state certified soundstage. To start with, we'll go back a little bit in terms of just the rationale for why we would invest in something like this. It really just boils down to job creation and private investment. Since about 2012, we've seen a pretty consistent rise in jobs and investment in the film industry in Oklahoma. Fiscal year 21, the state has estimated that about 10,000 jobs have been created just in that year, $161 million of investment in that industry. And just before our meeting, I saw the updated numbers for 21, and that's actually jumped up to about 11,000 jobs and 170 million. That 170 million, about $107 million of that was just for local wages. So those, that money was spent on hiring Oklahomans. I'll get into the state incentive package in the next slide, But in order to qualify for the state incentive, they have to spend money on hiring Oklahomans to work on these films. Up to this point, Oklahoma has seen that increase, and Guthrie has seen the impact of film in our community, and that's without two big components that other states have had in terms of a concerted workforce development program to train people, and it's been without sound stages. California, New Mexico, and Georgia have really, they've been ahead of Oklahoma for a long time, basically because of those two things, workforce development and sound stages. We've been increasing, the impact of film in Oklahoma has increased without those things. And in order for us to compete with those other states and take that next step, whether it's the state of Oklahoma or the film industry, both of those entities for a couple of years now have said, if Oklahoma wants to take that next leap and make this something that competes with those other states, workforce development, sound stages are those two things that have to be added. Meridian is meeting that need, or will be meeting that need with their Guthrie campus. And so they're taking that step on their end to train more skilled workers for that industry. And adding that soundstage to Guthrie would be that final piece of the puzzle for us as a local community to compete at that next level. When it comes to the state incentives, this newest round of legislation, SB 608, Senator Hall, our senator, really went to bat for rural Oklahoma in that last piece of legislation, to where it's not just an incentive that benefits Oklahoma City and Tulsa. So in this newest round of legislation, cities the size of Guthrie see and can get production companies an extra piece of rebate percentage. Counties the size of Logan can see another percentage increase. Films that produce multiple, or production companies that produce multiple films or television shows within a certain period of time get another bump. The last piece of that incentive puzzle is if production companies use a soundstage. So if Guthrie added a soundstage to the rest of these pieces, we could reasonably say that we would be more competitive than maybe any other community in the state, because of the size of Guthrie, the size of Logan County. We've already seen companies that are making multiple movies in Guthrie within that calendar period. Adding a soundstage to the mix means a production company could theoretically see a bigger incentive rebate from the state than filming maybe anywhere else in the state. So this is an opportunity. The soundstage production or soundstage construction gives us the opportunity to be incredibly competitive in a growing industry in the state. Jumping to what this is, what in the world is a soundstage? We're looking at this 8.3 acres next to the airport. In terms of what the size of building we're looking at, the state criteria to meet their certification is a minimum of 7,500 square feet of filmable space. The proposal that our team has put together with the help of Tony and his crew, we're looking at a filmable space of about 10,000 square feet. And they've done an incredible job of just working the cost out to where we can build this with more space than the state requires. And they've done a great job of communicating with folks in the film industry to see not only how they can meet that criteria, but what film companies need so that they will use this space. This kind of shows on that 8.3 acres how much of a footprint the proposed soundstage would have. It's on the left-hand side, and then there's also kind of an outline of a parking space. So an interesting thing about this is that we still have plenty of room to grow. If this takes off, there's plenty of space in that parcel of land to add to demand. This is just a rendering of what the outside could look like. Another picture of what the internal space could look like. this isn't something that to the naked eye looks like this, beautiful marvel of architecture. It's functionally a big empty room with a bunch of bells and whistles that you can't see. A great thing about this project is that obviously there's no guarantees. 5-10 years from now, if the film industry in Oklahoma or in the country does some kind of weird thing, and I don't know, tanks or whatever, we still end up with a 10,000 square foot industrial building that can function for numerous other industries if for some reason in the future this isn't wildly successful.
And I would point out, if you look at it and consider, it's a 12,565 square foot building. As Justin indicated, 10,870 of it is clear span. If we get this grant and we invest 1.5, we'd have roughly $119 a square foot in the building. So if things went to heck in a basket, and the movie industry decided not to use Oklahoma anymore, you still got a very viable industrial building that could be easily adapted to multiple uses, and it's on a great site and in a good location.
As I go through these, Tony, if I'm missing anything important, just say, Justin, you're screwing this up. This is an overhead of what we're talking about. As you can see, it's most of the structure is just the big empty space, 30-foot clear span up to there's a catwalk and a grid system that can be used for light and sound. But all the way up to that catwalk there's no posts or anything that gets in the way of filming. And you can see on this section of the building, you've got things like lobby, restrooms, storage space, mechanical rooms to meet those various demands. On this cross section of the building, just another visual of the 30-foot span. All the mechanical things are out of the way in this building. The HVAC units are on the ground outside of the building, so there's not the vibrations of mechanical stuff. One of the main elements of the structure is it has to be soundproof. Films aren't going to use it if they have to stop every time there's an airplane going overhead, or even if this was built anywhere else in town, you'd still have noise issues wherever you are, whether it's a state highway, a railroad, an airplane. So the soundproofing needs are pretty elaborate. Even from state standards, in order for it to be a state certified soundstage, it has to meet certain soundproofing criteria. So that was a big part of what Tony and his crew have added into this design. 10,000 square feet of filmable space, soundproofing, 30-foot clear span. Those are all things that if we want it to be a state certified soundstage to meet those incentive criteria, have to be included. In the proposal in your packet, you've got Blatt Architects' entire proposal from the architect side of things, and it goes into a lot of the details of the cost estimates of individual items of the construction. The total cost is that 4.9, and then Leroy's already talked about how staff is recommending that breakdown of asking for 35 or 3.5 from EDA, including the 30% match or 1.5 million out of local funds for the matching amount. A little bit different scenario with the two resolutions. We have resolution 2138, which is submitting the grant to EDA. 2140 that we were recommending submitting to the state's ARPA portal. We're requesting $750,000 out of that pot of money to offset some of our matching funds. So the $750,000 that we're wanting to apply for from the state portal, if we receive it, that would reduce our matching amount in half. But still the same exact project, being submitted to both funding opportunities, but the state version would be to reduce our out-of-pocket costs for matching amounts.
So on the state portion of it, then that's a non-matching for us, just like Leroy was talking earlier on the 8 billion that's already requested, right? So in improving this, we really need to look at the 1.5 million probably.
Right.
Definitely, we will commit 1.5.
That's what I'm saying.
And if we are fortunate enough, the state provides money for half the match,
Right.
that would reduce our commitment at that time in half. What we'd like to do at that point is the next building that we would need to serve the film industry is a shop building where they could actually build sets and then just roll them into. And so if that $750,000 becomes freed up, we would look at maybe investing that money in doing the next step of the project and do a shop building where they could build sets and those kind of things.
But realistically, I guess what I was saying is that we're already looking at the economic development side on the state side as well.
Yes.
And so, when we're doing a match on that one, so all I'm saying, I'm for the soundstage, 100%. I'm just saying that we have to be prepared to just look at the 1.5 million.
Correct.
In approving that thing and not
Correct.
even worry about the 750, because that's probably gonna go somewhere else.
Yes, but it would be gravy.
It'd be great.
Well, then make your motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
This is on item number 4, or I'm sorry, item number 3,
And 5.
which is we're doing one at a time.
Okay.
3, which is the EDA grant. That's what your motion was, Brian?
Yes.
And your second.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion or questions of Justin or Mr. Blatt, or? Okay, hearing none, submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to approve Resolution 2021-38. It has to do with the EDA grant for the film stage. Now, moving to item number 5, this is the state money and Resolution 2021-40. Also entertain a motion.
Let me ask a quick question on that one before we vote, actually, again, on that. How does that affect our economic development grant that we're putting in multiple grants within the same fund?
The state ARPA money is kind of a black box that you really haven't been figured out yet. But my understanding, a lot of these projects, like we are talking a minute about applying for money for some water main improvements. That may be a designated pocket of the 1.8 billion.
Right.
Economic development may be a different pocket. So our different applications may be competing for different pockets of money, not competing against each other. But we don't fully know that because nobody exactly knows how they're going to work the process yet. It's still somewhat in refinement stage.
Yeah, I'd just hate to see us lose out on one because we've got multiple ones within the
Correct.
same fund.
But they're going to approve the one they like best,
Right.
no matter what.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll second it.
we had a motion and a second.
Yep.
Any other questions or discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes, unanimous approval from those present then.
Thank you.
To approve Resolution 2021-40, the state ARPA money for the film sound stage. That moves us to item number 7, discussion possible action to approve Resolution 2021-42, authorizing the submission of a grant, ARPA money for the replacement of antiquated existing water distribution mains. Leroy, are you taking that?
I am.
Okay.
I visited with Senator Hall, who is one of the 24 members of the legislative committee, along with the governor that's overseeing the state ARPA money. And he indicated to me that his thought would be this $1.8 billion will be divided into pockets. And one of those pockets would be water and utility infrastructure. And his thoughts would be that if we submitted an application where we did a 50-50 match, because so many communities are asking for 100% funding, that if we did a 50-50, we would be pretty attractive and competitive in pursuing those monies set aside for water infrastructure. So what we're proposing is a project that would be a $1.7 million project, roughly. 865 asked for ARPA funds, and then we would match it with 865,000 of our local ARPA money. And we received over $2 million, half of it this year, half of it next year, of ARPA funds directly to the city. And I did, in your staff report, I showed we have roughly encumbered about $975,000 of our $2 million of ARPA funds for various projects. If we set aside $865,650 for matching for this application, it would still leave us roughly $196,000 of our local ARPA money for something else if we need it. And when we look at our water utilities and look at the number of lines that predate 1975, that is a major need for our community, and this would help address this. We do have an opportunity to apply for some funds through OWRB in the near future. We're probably going to concentrate that application, and there won't be a match on that application, if I recall. We're going to gear that towards our water towers, because we don't want to have every street in town tore up at once. We've got the CDBG water line project going now. If we get this funded, when we go after the OWRB money after the first year, we'll probably look at applying for funds for the water towers. And then as the Build Back America Act gets figured out, there'll be other pots of money for water and sewer line improvements, and we hope to position ourselves to apply for some of those funds. Then at some point, we're going to have to probably look at, do we bump our water and sewer rates to finish that $32 million project to replace the old water lines? But we're going to try to get as much grant funding before we look at the rates.
It's always good to get that good leverage.
Correct.
So I make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then for all those present to approve Resolution 2021-42, ARPA money for replacing existing water distribution mains. Item number 8, discussion and possible action to adopt and approve ordinance number 3363, requesting a rezoning of 20 acres of property from R1 to R2 PUD. Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This property is located south of town. It's off of Forest Hills Road. They have a 20-acre parcel currently zoned R1. The applicants are currently building a single-family residence there, and they want to have what our code is defined as a group reception center. They want to have wedding receptions and that out there on that 20 acres. Currently in R1, it's not an allowed use. It is an allowed use through a special use permit in R2. So we went the route of doing the R2 planned unit development. That way they can get the use, but we don't have to worry about multifamily and all types of other development popping up on the acreage. If there's probably ever an acreage that this is most suitable for in town, it's probably this one. Not a whole lot of development in the area. You saw my staff report about all of the stuff with the PUD. It meets pretty much everything. There isn't really any issues from our end. And just to clarify, the development plan would have a 3,626 square foot building, and they're looking to have around 200 people at most at any given event. And again, given the size, they have more than enough for parking and accommodating and probably not being a bother to any of their neighbors. The Planning Commission had recommended approval of the application 3.0, and the only condition was just a standard condition that development would have to comply with the submitted development plan.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Did you get any, you sent out notices, I assume, to?
That is correct. There was
Jason?
nobody at the
No-
public hearing, and there were no written notices or even any, honestly, residents that had questioned it.
Okay, all right. And we have the applicants here?
Yes, they are here if you do have any questions for them.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Mr. Mitchell?
James,
Oh, hold on.
First.
sorry. All votes for
I
it.
did it 17 minutes ago.
Unanimous approval then to approve ordinance number 3363 on that rezoning request. Item number 9, city manager report.
I don't have a report, but I want to make you aware, our next meeting on December 21st, it'll be important for us to at least have a quorum at that meeting. We have found out Department of Commerce had CARES Act funds that could be used to replace HVA systems on public buildings, with the exception of City Hall. They've been through a couple rounds. They had money left over that people didn't apply for. They're looking for a home, and we're going to be willing to provide a home for those monies.
Here we are.
But we would like to get that application in before some other community decides to submit. So we will have a public hearing and a resolution to apply for those CDBG funds to replace HVAC units at Public Works, Water Plant, Fire Department, which will be a good opportunity for us to replace some of our old systems using grant funds.
So moved. Document that now.
Well, it will be an important, important meeting, obviously close to Christmas, understand that. So just get it on your calendars right now. See if we can make sure that we have a quorum for that.
And I would point out, I think our city staff working as a team, in the limited staff we have, we've done about as good a job of tracking the federal and state grant money as I know how we could do. So I think our staff is doing a yeoman task.
And leadership. Anything else, Leroy?
No, sir.
Okay, item number 10, comments from members of the city council. Councilman Williams.
No, I think you're right. Talking with Kim, they said this is the normal time of year they start to slow down, but in trying to capture these funds, they've been even more busy than ever, so I commend you all. Thank you.
Councilman Taylor.
I agree. Thanks, staff. I mean, all you guys, I mean, everybody worked on this. This is outstanding, the way it's all set up. This is a great way to move Guthrie forward, and so I think it's great.
Councilman Long.
We had our first Victorian walk this last weekend, and we couldn't have asked for better weather. And our second one's coming up this coming Saturday, so I hope those that didn't attend last weekend will be able to attend this weekend.
I think Pastor Frank is in charge of weather.
Okay, well. I know who he is. If you'll make a call. The other thing is I want to recognize the owners of the Gray Brothers building. They redid their lights this year, and it just looks amazing. I went through and looked at some old pictures online, and when you look at the Guthrie Victorian Walk, there was a time in which every building downtown was lit up. And that's not the case anymore. And boy, seeing the Gray Brothers building really illuminates how magnificent it would be if we did that once again. When we talk about why aren't people coming, well, I don't think that we put the effort into our downtown as what we have in the past, to keep those people coming in numbers. And so I don't, it doesn't need to go on an agenda item, but I'd love to see, the city do some type of ordinance that if you own a downtown building, it must be lit up, in our codes.
Is that by striking a match or?
Preferably not. I mean, I think that, I'll be loved by some and hated by others, but nonetheless, all of these buildings have some old lights on them that were lit up at one time, and they need to be lit up again. So some pressure needs to be put on some building owners to make that happen.
Amen.
That's all I got.
Amen. Amen. Good. Councilman Bothroyd.
Nothing tonight.
Councilman Channel.
Another event that James neglected to mention, the weekend after this weekend, there's also another Christmas event in the Flats. They're having, I don't know what all, fireworks and a parade and all of that. So there's 2 weekends before all the celebrating is over. And then the next weekend is the big celebration. You get to open the big box, so just be good to each other. It's that time of year, even you, Bothroyd.
I'll try.
Well, lots of things going on. As has been mentioned, we've got the second time of the Victorian Walk, and then we've got I think it's called A Merry Christmas or something like that down in the Flats, but it's going to incorporate the city. We've got the Santa Fly-In on the 18th at the airport, so it'll be a big deal. We got the Pollard that's back in operation and putting on their traditional Christmas program. And so just a lot going on in our community, and it takes a lot of people. It takes a few people to orchestrate closing down roads. And a lot of people doing a lot of things behind the scenes to make it happen. Thank you to all of those people in this room, not only city employees, but volunteers throughout our community, doing a great job to put our best foot forward. And it is. I've gotten 3 or 4 letters just this week, emails of people from out of state that attended the walk and the tour, and just were absolutely blown away, and would really be blown away if we had all the lights going. So let's make that happen too. Any last words? Ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned.